So it was less than 2 days ago that England's World Cup dream ended. And of course, still very, very disappointed. It's still very, very raw disappointment. But of course, some players for me really stood out this tournament. And that's what I'm going to be talking about today, a more positive point of view. There's a lot of, where does the blame really lie with this, with us going out the way we did? I mean, I think ultimately, as much as I like him, you have to look at Thomas Tuchel. Maybe a few individuals could have done a bit more throughout the whole tournament, but overall, I thought there's a lot of players that I was very impressed with this tournament, and that's there. And I picked out 5 here in particular that I'd like to really give some credit to here and really give a mention to. That's what I'm going to be doing here, and a few that I considered before I get into the 5 that I think have been really consistent and really stood out this tournament for me. Some that I considered, some that were just outside maybe of the 5 that I've picked, I think Declan Rice, unfortunately, he wasn't quite up to fitness, was unwell in the games maybe against Argentina and Norway, but so good, particularly in that second half against Mexico. Had some other good games as well. So I think he's got to be there in that discussion. Someone else, Dan Burn, I thought when he come off the bench to defend in those round of 16 and quarterfinals, I thought it was fantastic. So I think John Stones certainly has some good moments as well in that regard. John Pickford had a fantastic game against Mexico. Some big saves in other moments as well. Onto let me know if there's anyone that I've missed out, anyone that you think deserves a mention as well. But they're the ones that sort of come to mind, and these are the 5 now that I really want to highlight for this tournament. Starting with Anthony Gordon, fantastic. I have to say, I think going into the tournament, most people myself included, thought Rashford will eventually start on that left wing. He should start there. But Gordon really grew into the tournament, and the first 2 games he started, and he was hardly done anything. He was ineffective. Nothing happened for him. And when Rashford was sort of coming off the bench, having an impact, particularly in that first game, getting his goal, and then nothing really happening for Gordon in the next 2, he comes on. Rashford seems to have a bit of an impact there as well. You're thinking maybe Rashford's the start, but when he did against DR Congo, nothing happened for him either. And then Gordon comes off the bench, and all of a sudden he has a massive impact. He sets the goal up for Kane, and he makes a real difference when he comes off the bench. All of a sudden we look a lot more positive. But then we against Mexico is fantastic. He capitalises really well on that moment for Bellingham's goal. He sets up Bellingham's goal really, really nicely. And in the second half, goes flying in. Puts himself at risk, goes flying into the path of the goalkeeper to win us that penalty. Fantastic in that game from Gordon. So much positive play from him there. And then, of course, he was so good, playing so well against Argentina. Even put us into the lead, steps up in big moments for us. There's so many times in this tournament, and he did that then. But then, of course, it all went wrong, particularly when he was taken off, which was a massive mistake. But yeah, really good from Gordon. Thought he grew into the tournament. He didn't work out from the first 2 games, but when he got the chance to play again, really, really stepped up. So he's someone that I think definitely deserves a mention in this tournament. One of the only 4 goal scorers for us this tournament as well. Because up till the semi-final, we only had the 3 goal scorers. Obviously, Kane and Bellingham really leading the charge in that sense, and then Rashford with that goal off the bench in the first game against Croatia. But next player that I think really does deserve a mention is Jed Spence, a player that I was a bit baffled by, like a lot of people when he got the call up. I wasn't really sure about it. I was thinking, I suppose the only thing is that he can play on both sides. He's one of the only players that is comfortable playing on both sides at fullback, and also played a wing-back role as well, which Tuchel does sometimes. So in that regard, it made sense. But always a player that I thought was never particularly great with challenges, always kind of, sometimes mistimed them, and actually sometimes, was quite inconsistent. Had some good games, but also some really poor games. I thought he was quite inconsistent. So him getting the call-up was a strange one. But off the bench against Croatia, very, very good. Of course, the DR Congo game was not great for him, though. But then, when he comes on again against Norway, you see he can be a real impact player, because he was fantastic off the bench in that game, and all of a sudden, he seems to have really, really found some real confidence. In that game against Argentina, he was incredible, I have to say. He was brilliant. Big challenges, really sort of stood up to the challenge as well, because they were going to, always knew it was going to be scrappy. We knew they were going to do quite a lot of fouling as well, and he was not fazed at all by that, and he was not fazed by the occasion. He was one of the standout players in that game that eventually, unfortunately, went wrong for England. But I have to say, I mean, it doesn't feel right to give Tuchel too much credit in this moment because of how wrong he got it against Argentina. But I think he did do a really good job calling up Spence and actually working with him individually because I think he saw potential in him, and I think he developed him really well throughout the tournament. He made the big call to drop him against after the DR Congo game as well, and has brought him back into the team. And he's really sort of relished the opportunity to play again, and he's really stepped up and really took that really well, Jed Spence. I think he's been fantastic this tournament. We've seen a completely new player there in him. Next up, player that I think was played every game, gone under the radar at times, in my opinion, Elliot Anderson. He's been fantastic. He's really sort of unveiled himself as a top player in this tournament. I think a lot of people have always considered him, he's a good player and he's a good, solid midfielder that's sort of got a bright future ahead of him. But I think this is proven now he's a top player. He really is a top player. I think he's had to play in every game in different environments. Tournament football is something that's completely new to him, really, coming into this as well. The environment, the conditions, completely new to him as well. And I thought, it was fantastic. I thought every game just did not make mistakes, did not let us down. Protected the back four when he had to as well, when we was particularly against Norway, when we was having to defend. Controlled the game as well in the games like the Mexico game, and in some of the games he wasn't talked about after the game either, which shows you which sometimes for a midfielder that can be a real positive. Just doing your job and just keeping the team, keeping things calm, keeping things steady in the midfield, keeping things ticking over. And I think big challenges as well, really good tackler. Always timed his challenges right as well, and some big moments in that regard as well. So I think Anderson, fantastic tournament, standout player for England. And of course, I think Harry Kane's got to be up there for a mention as well. One of the two standout goal scorers, and there was a concern in this tournament that are enough players chipping in with the goals. It was all Kane and Bellingham, but of course Kane, always clinical in front of goal. Didn't really see the best of him because he was left up top on his own for a lot of the Argentina game, unfortunately. In that game against Norway, okay, didn't have his best game, but against Mexico, stepped up in the big moment with his penalty. In the group stage, very clinical in those moments as well, scoring each game. He was there in front of goal on enough occasions that I think, he was right up there amongst top scorers in this competition, as he usually is, and always clinical as he always is for England. Just adding to his, records for England, so definitely has to be up there as well. But the player whose tournament it really was, the player I think will be remembered for England this tournament years down the line, the player that I think has really, people knew was a world-class player. People knew was the quality he had coming into this tournament, but someone who has exceeded, even he had high expectations on him and has even exceeded them, is Jude Bellingham. What a tournament he's had. Every game he has delivered in. The first game in the group stage already, there was a debate over whether he should start, and already he put that to bed in that first game with his goal. And then from then on, him and Kane are leading the charge on the goal front. And then against Mexico, he's incredible. 2 steps up in 2 massive moments, gets 2 really good goals. Just the same against Norway, 2 goals there. And then, in the semi-final, we didn't get him in the game enough. But when he did, he was certainly still causing some problems for Argentina, as you'd expect. And just what a tournament he has had. It's a shame, because if we had made the final, if we had gone on and won this, he would have without doubt won player of the tournament, because he has been unbelievable. He's been as good as anyone this tournament individually. Of course, Messi as well has got to be mentioned in that regard as well. But Bellingham really has been fantastic. I think he's been England's best player this tournament. And I think we've seen a real mentality sort of shift from him this season as well. I think, in previous tournaments, there maybe has been he maybe hasn't had the best mentality, if you like, if that's the best way to phrase it. But I think this tournament we've really seen him grow as a person and a player. I think, him getting dropped from the squad was maybe quite important to that as well in the qualifying, and then coming into this tournament, I think he's really stepped up for the team, played for the team, and he's really delivered in every game, and I cannot praise him enough, really. It's just a shame it didn't, because this is what I mean, we've had some great performances, it's just a shame it went so wrong, and Tuchel got it so wrong in that semi-final. But yeah, let me know your thoughts on that. That's my sort of 5 players that I've picked out, the 5 players that I think have really stood out for me this tournament for England. So let me know your thoughts on this. Let me know who you think I missed out as well, you think that deserves a mention in this.